Welcome. In this video, I'll explain you how to detect the multiple object by using one HCSR04 sensor. So normally the code available on the internet, if you are using any library code, you just can detect only one object. You cannot detect the second object, a third object, or the fourth object, multiple object using one sensor. So here I'll explain you how you can do it. So let me explain you first general from this picture. After that, I will tell you how to do some modification in the coding, and then that you will be able to detect the multiple object. For example, how you detect the single object. Here is the transmitter and here is the receiver. Once you send the signal hit with any object and reflect back to the receiver, any first object, and reflect back to the receiver. As the receiver receive the reflection, it just give you the time duration of after sending the signal and the reflection time. So using that time you can measure the distance of first object. And after that, if you receive the second or third or fourth reflection, the sensor didn't give you the time duration of second, third or fourth reflection. So basically there is no built-in function inside the sensor to get the time of second, third or fourth reflection. So how you can get the second, third or fourth reflection? So what you need to use the technique, let's see here. For example, if you first time send the signal, because you have two pin, one is transmission pin and one is receiving pin, that we call it echo. Here you can see trigger and echo. Trigger send some pulses and echo receive the reflection. So you send the first trigger and receive the reflection. So now if you want to detect the second object, first time you detect this, you already know this object is how far from the sensor. So you need to save that time, and the second time when you send the signal in the coding, you add some delay. You don't activate the receiving pin, don't activate the echo pin. So what will happen? During the first reflection, your echo pin will be deactivated. So, and right after this time, you activate the echo pin. Then what will happen? The second echo will reach to the sensor and sensor will consider it as first echo. Because at the time of first echo, the echo pin was disabled. So you can measure the second object and send again signal, and you can measure the third object, fourth object, fifth object. You can measure the multiple object distance using one sensor. So let's go for coding. So that delay, it doesn't mean that it will take you a long time. Maybe in 1 second you can measure the 10 or 11 or 12 objects. So it will not take much time. So let's go here in the coding. Okay. Now I consider that you already know the ultrasonic basic code, right? So you don't, I'm not going to do much detail about the basic code here now, but I will give you the general introduction here. So I'm not going to use any library. So we will use one function, pulse in. Here I define the pin 11 as the trigger pin 12 as a echo pin, and distance you can measure in centimeter or inches, feet. It's depend upon you. That's the simple division at the end you can do. And go to wide setup. Here is the serial, that is the common, everyone do this. Serial communication, to start the serial communication. Pin mode, trigger pin you need to set as output, and the echo pin is the input. So we just need to play with this echo pin to detect the multiple objects. So let's go ahead how we can play with this echo pin. Okay, go to loop and start, that is the normal code as ultrasonic. First you need to put the trigger pin low, and then you put some delay, and next again you put the trigger pin high. After high, the minimum limit for delay is 10 microseconds. You can make more, 100 or 200, 300, long is no problem, but the delay should not be less than 10 microseconds. That is the general basic rule for all HCSR04 sensors. Then after this delay, you need to make this trigger pin low. As this trigger pin goes low, your time calculations start now after this low. So time is already start here, and you calculate the time duration of the receiving echo. How you calculate? By using this function, pulse in echo pin high. So this duration is what? This duration is after going this signal low, it gives you the time of the signal when your sensor received the reflection. So that time is called the duration 1 time. So duration 1 time is saved. So by using this time duration, you directly can calculate the distance of first object. So if we go, here is a simple formula. If you want to calculate the centimeter, you can say duration 1 divided by 2 divided by 29.1. That will give you the distance in centimeter. So I'm not going in this detail how it calculates in centimeter, millimeter, meters, so that you can do it by yourself. So now you have the time duration of sensor 1. So in code, you don't need to calculate here. At the end, you can calculate. First, you get the time of all objects. At the end, you can calculate the distance of all objects together. Now, duration 1 you already have. So what you need to do, again you send the signal. Trigger pin make low, then give the 5 microsecond delay, then make the trigger pin high. Here is the minimum limit is 10. So at least you need to give the 10 microsecond delay. Then you make pin low. Now the time starts here now. But what you need to do, because this time you already know the distance of first object, so you don't want again to get the distance of first object. Now you want to get the distance of second object. What you need to do, you just put here delay plus 200 microsecond, because from the first reflection there might be the near to that reflection there might be some noise. So to avoid that noise, give the 200 microsecond delay. So after 200 microsecond delay, so what that delay will do, now you will see here. You send this signal, right? So you already know the first reflection time is duration 1. So duration 1 plus some microsecond, you put the delay. So it means your receiving pin is not activated. So first reflection will be missed by the sensor. The second reflection will come to the sensor, and sensor will consider it as a first reflection. So that will give you the distance of second object, not the first object, because first is already passed in the delay time. So here you can see, here we put some delay. Then you can do again like this, duration 2 is equal to pulse in echo pin high. So that will give you the duration 2. So if you have the want to calculate the 2, 3 objects, 4 objects, and for third object, what you need to do, you do the same code here, and you in the delay, now you don't need to write duration 1. In the delay, you need to write duration 2 plus 200 microsecond. So that will give you the duration 3, and then you define the pulse in and echo, and that will give you duration 3. So by using this technique, how many objects you want to calculate, 2, 3 or 4, so you need to write the code like this there, and you will be able to get the distance of multiple objects. So in that, one thing you need to notice here, if the first object is here, and for example, if the second object is exactly behind this, so because the signal cannot pass first object and cannot touch the second object, so you will not be able to get this object. So at least the object should not be behind to each other, they should have some difference. So for example here, so and if third object is here, you can measure its distance. The fourth object is here, you also can measure. Fifth object is here, you also can measure the distance. So but if object is exactly behind to each other, then that will not be able to detect the multiple objects. So that was all about it. You can try this code, you can write it, and if there is any problem, you can ask me. That was all about this. Thanks for watching.